Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. So today we're going to engrave metal with our Cricut Maker machine and the engraving tip. What kind of metal? We're actually going to make bracelets with our Cricut machine. Metal cuff bracelets. How are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to use the Impress Art Essential Bracelet Kit to get my blanks. Then we'll engrave them with the Cricut Maker and the engraving blade, and then we'll use the kit to bend them into a bracelet. So it's a great project for those of you that might be looking for a gift idea or to make something special for yourself. It's a great way to make a personalized gift. You can engrave anything you want in any font onto these bracelet blanks. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to need. So we're going to be using our Cricut Maker with the engraving tool. And I'm going to use the Impress Art Essential Bracelet Kit. So this comes with the blanks, the stuff you need to bend the bracelets, like basically everything you would need to get started. You can buy other blanks after that. So there will be we'll take a look at what's inside, but there will be some stamp enamel to fill in your engraving. If you run out of stamp enamel or blanks, you can buy the stamp enamel and markers, you can buy the blanks separately, that type of thing. And then you'll need a strong grip mat for the bracelet, as well as some painter's tape. And then I'm going to use a pen, a light grip mat, and some really thin tissue paper to test my location. That's optional, but I hear from a lot of people that have trouble with locating things like the engraving on the Cricut, and I'm going to show you a hack for how to do that. Here's everything that comes in the Essential Bracelet Kit. So you get an instruction sheet, you get the tools to bend your bracelets, you get the stamp enamel like I talked about, a small package. Again, you can buy it in marker form later if you need more. Then you'll get some bracelet guides, as well as 4 each of the 1/4 inch and 3/8. They also make a 1/2 inch wide bracelet. That is not included in the kit. So you can buy these blanks separately if you want to purchase more of them, and then you can buy the 1/2 inch ones if you are wanting those. So now let's take a look in Cricut Design Space at how you're going to design your bracelet. All right, let's take a look at designing your project in Cricut Design Space. So the first thing up here I have is just a plain rectangle. The 3 bracelet sizes that Impress Art makes are 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, and 1/2 inch. I'm going to make the 3/8 inch bracelet. So I made this box 3/8 by 6 inches. So I find they're right at 6 inches long. Then we want to type some text. So this is just text. I just typed it in Cricut Design Space. However, we need to get it to look more like this, where it's a written font. So this font is DTC Porch Chair, and I like it. Why do I like it? So it works good with writing. It's a little quirky, which I like. And it's all capitalized. So if you choose a font where the letters hang down, so for the Joy, let's just switch this font here. So let's switch this to something else. And now you can see with the J and the Y, it hangs down below this level. So that means that the entire thing would have to be smaller in size to fit on my bracelet. So I sort of prefer the fonts that are all capital letters over the fonts that are not capitalized. So I'm just going to go back to this DTC Porch Chair. Now, how do you find the fonts that will work the best? So I like to search Cricut fonts and filter them for writing. So all of these fonts that are now on here work well with writing. So I can pick any of these, and let's see if this one might work. So when I picked this, it changed. However, it's still a cut. So how do we fix that? So if you pull this down and pick writing, now it's with the pen, and it's a writing font, and it's a single line. And this one's super cute as well, a little quirky like I like. But I'm actually going to go with the DTC Porch Chair for both of my bracelets. So let's copy and paste this a couple times. So over on this side, we will make the engraved bracelets. And then over here on the left, I'm going to show you a way to sort of test the location without ruining your bracelet blank. So what I'm going to do is size these to where they fit how I like them on the bracelet. And we can actually zoom in a little bit so we can see that. And I would just size them until you like them. Pick both, then do a line, and then pick center. And then if you want the bracelets to be the same, this turned out to be a font size of 27.37. The next one we can make 27.37, and it will be the exact same size as the Choose Joy. And then we can pick them both, and we can center them. Just make the text that same size, and then align center once again. But this time, we want to make these engraved. So we're going to pick the word. And the first thing we need to do is make sure that either Maker or Maker 3 is chosen as our machine. Those are the only two machines that can engrave. Then we'll pull down Operation, and you can see Engrave as an option. I'll repeat that for the Live in the Moment. So now we have our boxes, we have our words, and these are two separate pieces. So I'm actually not going to attach them together because I'm going to remove the boxes here in a second. So now we have both pen and engrave, and I'm going to go over here to the engrave, and I'm just going to hit the I to hide those. And we could also hide these, but it's not going to make that big of a difference. Let's click Make It. So now I have the pen, and then I have boxes. So I'm going to move these boxes over to the pen just for a minute because I like those boxes a little bit better to help me align everything. So let's say on the 3-inch, so I'm going to put my design on, say, 4 inches and the 3-inch mark. So what I'm going to try to do is get sort of the box in the center as a visual. So if I put the left on the 1-inch mark, the right on the 7-inch, the center should be on the 4. And then I approximately centered it up on this 3-inch mark. And then you can take one of your designs and just move it. And I just find the box makes it easier for me to see that center and make sure that it's centered up on my mark. So I have it pretty much centered. Let's say about right there. Looks centered to me. So once you have it centered on that blank, then you can pick the blank and hide it. And we can repeat down here at, say, the 5. So I'm going to have my designs at the 3 and at the 5. Then we'll just pull down the text for the second one and center that up. Then pick the square again and hide. So now we have 2 written words that are at the 3 and 5-inch mark on our mat. So now let's take a look at putting the paper on our mat. All right, so I've taken the light grip mat. Doesn't really matter, we're not going to use this for anything anyway. And I put some really thin tissue paper on here. And then I'm taking my blank and I'm locating it, because I can see the grid lines through this paper, I'm locating it where I will locate it to engrave, or where I think it should be. So remember the 3 and the 4 as my center, and the 5 and the 4 as my center. So I would probably put the bracelet blank there, and I'm just going to trace around it just with the Cricut pen. And then we are going to write what we just designed in Cricut Design Space with our Cricut machine, and that way we can see if our Cricut machine is off any and if we need to correct when we actually do our engraving. So I've added my pen to my Cricut Maker, and I'm ready to draw my words onto my tissue paper. So now my Cricut machine has drawn the words and it looks pretty good. The Choose Joy is a little low. So what I'm going to do is when I add the bracelet blank to this 3 by 4 inch mark, I'll just move either the blank down a little bit or the words up a little bit in design space so that I know that I will get a better location. So basically use this as your guide for locating the actual engraving on the blanks that you're going to engrave. So let's take a look in Cricut Design Space at how that will work. All right, so I've brought back the engraving and now we can just get rid of these ones that we made for drawing. So now we have the engraving as well as the bracelets to go along with those. Again, they're not attached together because we are going to get rid of the squares once we click Make It. So we'll click Make It, and I'm going to repeat the same procedure. So I'm going to move these to the other mat, and we probably just need one actually. And then we'll put this on the 3 by 4 inch line, and I am going to take my Choose Joy, and this time I'm going to center it. And I'm going to move it up to the top of that blank so that it's up just a little bit higher than it was before. Then we're going to take the blank itself and move it to the 5 by 4 inch line. And this one was located, I feel like, pretty well. So we'll just put it back into location on the blank. And then once we feel like everything's in place, we can hide that. And now we just have engraving on our mat. So now let's take a look at putting our bracelets onto the Strong Grip mat. So the first thing is that these bracelets come with a protective film on the front and the back, and that's blue. So we're just going to peel that off both sides and you can discard it. Next thing you get is some bracelet guides. Now, normally these are used for hand stamping your bracelets, but I find them super convenient to locate the center. So it has markings to locate the center up and down, and then there's a marking in the center of the bracelet itself. So what I like to do is just make sure that I get the locator in the center of the bracelet. And that way I can easily see that this is the center that should go onto that 4 inch mark that we talked about. So that's pretty good. So now I have 2 bracelet blanks. I have my bracelet guides on them so that I can easily see the center. And now we'll just put those on our mat. So remember, it should be at the 1 inch. And then we want that center mark to be at the 4. And this end should end up at the 7. And then we can, this line would be the center of the bracelet. And we can make sure that that looks centered with the 3 inch line. And then we'll repeat that on the 5. And then once everything looks centered, we can remove these. And we'll want to tape these into place to make sure that they do not move. So you do need to be aware of where your engraving is going to be located on your bracelet. And you can actually use that tissue paper template for that to make sure you're not covering up any of that area. So I'm just going to tape across both ends. And then once I have the tape in place on both sides, this one is ready for the Cricut Maker. So now we'll just remove any blade that you have in your maker. And we just want to put the engraving tip into the maker. I've picked stainless steel for my material. White star wheels are all the way to the right. And then we'll just load our mat. And once your mat's loaded, all that's left to do is to hit the go button. And then once your bracelets are done engraving, just eject your mat. And now let's take a closer look at our engraving. So here's the engraving on both of these, and you might find some debris and you can just brush that off. Now let's take a look at what happens. So if you don't get it aligned properly, you might get something that looks like this, or it goes off the edge. So these are both actually pretty good, Super impressed with those. And then we can just peel back the tape and remove our blanks from the mat. And then all that's left to do is to finish these off into bracelets. All right, to finish these into bracelets, like I said, you could use either what comes in the pack or the marker. And we're just going to add this over the top. And this is water-based. It's not going to hurt anything. You can brush it on, or I'm just going to wipe it on with my finger. And that way I can use any excess. And this dries in like 1 to 3 minutes. I'm going to let it dry for 1 to 3 minutes, something like that. And then we're just going to wipe away all that excess. And you'll be left with the enamel down in your engraving. And it makes it stand out quite a bit more. And I actually made more than just the 2 bracelets. We're going to do a few right now. But then you'll just wipe away all that excess. And you'll be left with that black in your engraving. And now it sticks out a lot more when you look at it. And I went ahead and added the black to the one that I messed up the location on, because I'm going to use that one to bend for the first time. So if you have any that you've messed up, don't throw those away. You can practice your bending of the bracelet on those so you don't ruin any actual ones that look really good. So now let's look at bending these blanks into actual bracelets. All right, so I am going to use the one that I messed up on to start the bending, just in case I mess it up. It's a really good idea to do that. So the first thing you have is this bending bar, and it has a little lip here that holds your bracelet, and you want it face up, and then you just push the bracelet down. You can see it bends it into a cuff shape. And then we'll repeat that on the opposite side. So add it to that little lip and just press it down. And now you have a cuff bracelet. And then these pliers are so that you can get that perfect shape. So if you're finding a place that's not exactly round, you just squeeze it with those pliers. Just sort of work your way around to get that perfect round bracelet shape. And there you have a cuff bracelet. So I'm just going to repeat this procedure on the actual ones that I have. And for different size wrists, these are super easy to bend. So you can just kind of bend it out, and then you could reshape it if you needed to once you did that bending to it, to get sort of that perfect size for, you know, for whoever's wrist that you're working on. So now I have some really amazing bracelets, all with my Cricut Maker machine. So I did want to note this can be used on the Cricut Maker or the Cricut Maker 3. Both will accept the engraving tip and the quick swap housing, so you can use those to do that. And I'll also link to all the supplies I used in the description below. So if you're looking to pick up that essential bracelet kit with everything you need to make your bracelets, you can find a link for that in the description below. And then be sure you have the engraving tip for the Maker. So I also want to note that as far as I know, no other Cricut machines can do this. So only the Cricut Maker and the Cricut Maker 3. I haven't, so far at least, had any luck engraving with any of the other machines. So those are the 2 machines I would recommend for this, and the quick swap housing and the engraving tip. And then you can make your own custom bracelets in minutes, as you saw. Pretty simple process. And I hope you enjoyed the hack for making sure that you get your project located correctly. Because that's the most common thing I hear from people. Because I have another video on metal blanks for going on a necklace. And the most common question I get is, how do you locate it? Mine's off location, that type of thing. Use that tissue paper hack. You find out if your machine is off a little bit and just account for that when you actually put your words onto the mat in Cricut Design Space. And then you should get, hopefully, a perfect or close to perfect bracelet every single time. So I hope this helped you. If it did, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about anything we've covered, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You're going to find that we have Cricut videos every week, and you're going to love every single one of them. So thank you for joining me this week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.